Good morning. If you guys didn't know, Boeing 777 is missing. It's one of the most world's reliable aircraft, and no one really knows why. It left from Kuala Lumpur heading to Beijing, China, carrying 239 people. That happened March 8th, 2014. It's been over a month, and still no signs have been recovered. I'm going to explain to you how difficult and possibly long this search can take in order to find any part of this aircraft. First, let me tell you what we know about this plane. It left from Kuala Lumpur at 12:41 a.m. heading to Beijing, China. About a half hour into the flight, the co-pilot makes final communication. A minute later after that, the transponder shuts off on the plane, removing all identification from all commercial radar. Half hour after that, it is spotted by military radar headed over the Strait of Malacca, which is this right here, which is the opposite way of what it was supposed to be going. And then hours later, satellite, which is over the Indian Ocean, about 35 kilometers above sea level, sets off a ping, which is the rings, and it's believed to be on one of, it traveled between one of those rings, and they don't think it went north because it would have been picked up by the countries. So that only leads us to believe that it's somewhere in the Indian Ocean. And about 8:40 a.m. is when estimated jet fuel would have ran out, leaving us to subject that it's in the Indian Ocean somewhere. The Indian Ocean is a very remote part of the world. Not many people have gone there. There's nothing but water and rough seas. There's no land for miles on end. There's actually a typhoon that's happening over the search zone right now, and these are the type of storms that you can click on it, that are happening. You can get a visualization of why they can't find. At this point, the visibility is less than a mile, and this is a cargo ship, and you can see the waves are pretty much bigger than it. Being in such conditions is probably my worst nightmare, to be in something like that. And yeah, the visibility, you can't see over half mile in the search zone. Is you see how big the Indian Ocean is. It's it's probably the biggest ocean. Space bar. Click on there you go. There has been satellite pictures, supposedly, by all these different countries. Sadly, nothing has been located at all. Search zone is 1,900 kilometers off Australia. There's many different search zones. It's really difficult because the currents in the ocean. Say if it would have crashed over there, by now pieces can be over here. One day, currents can move something over 100 miles. And now that it's been over a month, there's been an advanced search. Military and search crews thinks it's time to take it to the next level. Unmanned submersibles are starting to do sonar under the ocean, creating pictures. Hopefully they can pick up something, but if they've ever done over 20 missions and they say they haven't picked up anything off the ocean seabed. After a week sweeping the bottom floor, like I said, it still hasn't picked up anything. This is probably our best hope, knowing that there's a black box on the plane that only sets off a ping for 30 days, and that 30 days has ran out. Until the black boxes are found, we will actually not know what happened to the plane. said, the only way it can be located now. It's for a few different ways: unmanned submersibles, dragging different sonar systems, and airdropping buoy systems out of planes, and hoping that it lands over one. And hopefully in the near future, it is found and the family members of this flight can finally get some rest and the rest of this tragedy. Thank you.
All right, let me start with a couple of things that I think were pretty good. I like the reference to the topical event, the lost aircraft, with the picture as an attention device. I thought at the end that you had a nice exit line. I know what your subject is and generally where you're going. You don't really have a preview. Ultimately, it's not hard to figure out that you're kind of looking at this in a chronological process, but I think that you need to do a little bit more in giving us a roadmap as we're listening to the presentation, because it feels not disjointed per se, but it just feels like we're taking the scenic route on our way to whatever endpoint you have for us, as opposed to there's a deliberate process that we're trying to go through to get to this information. I thought that the content in the speech was pretty good. The visuals, I think, are very effective at illustrating the points that you're talking about. I thought they were integrated into the presentation nicely, so I don't have any problem with those sorts of things, except when it comes to the delivery. And this is a speech where we're trying to emphasize delivery skills, and this is really where they're the big problems in your presentation, because first of all, you deliver 90% of the time to the screen. You are talking to the screen behind you instead of the audience in front of you. I don't know if you are ill or what's going on, but you just, I almost made a snide comment. I shouldn't have done it. I'm glad I didn't do it, but the yawn that we heard a little while ago, I thought, this is like the quietest, most relaxing speech I've heard, because it just, your voice is so soothing and it's easy to, I don't want to say nod off, but come on, this is, people are missing. This plane has been looked for a month. People are freaking out about this, and it's so low key that it just feels like you're disinterested. And I know that you're not disinterested because you went to the effort to get the content here. But there's just no energy in the presentation. You got to do something to pick it up a little bit. And it's a combination of things. It's the pacing, it's the volume of your voice, it's the lack of variety or emphasis on any particular key terms. There aren't a lot of indicators in the presentation. Sometimes you do some pointing. Obviously, you're doing the pointing to indicate to somebody to click the next switch. I did like when you walked over a couple of times to show us something on the screen, and you make an extra effort to do that. But otherwise, you're standing behind the podium with your legs crossed, looking back away from the audience, and all of that just suggests I'm not engaged. And I know that you want to come across more effectively than that. So you've got good content. I think your voice would work well if you had a little bit more energy in it. And it's not disorganized, but it doesn't sound like you have a deliberate path to the end of the presentation. And so it really just feels like we're, like I said, kind of floating through this presentation instead of being directed through the presentation. I didn't see anything that was obviously anxiety-inducing, and like I said, I thought the content was pretty well prepared. But the delivery, when you watch it back, I think you'll pick up a lot of those things that we're talking about. It's just not the kind of stuff that we suggested that you be doing in the presentation. It's more narrating the slideshow kind of stuff, and you want to be careful about that. All right, thank you.